On this episode of Showcase, we talk with Raphaela Platow and Steven Matijcio about what it's like to work at one of the oldest and most celebrated contemporary art institutions in the country. We'll also learn more about what they have planned for their 2013-2014 season. Stay tuned. Showcase is coming up next. Hi, I'm Barbara Kellar, and welcome to this edition of Showcase. On today's episode, I'm joined by two amazing people from the Contemporary Arts Center, Raphaela Platow and Steven Matijcio. Thank you both for appearing on Showcase.
Thank you.
We want our audience, first of all, who may know Raphaela, but they don't know Steve because you just arrived, haven't you?
Exactly. I just started in June, and I'm very excited. So just 4 months into my tenure here, but Cincinnati has embraced me. I feel very welcome here and very excited. It feels like home already, and yet there's so much still to discover, so I'm very excited.
Where were you before you came here?
Most recently, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was at the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art, or CECA for short, which has some similarities, actually, to CAC and its history. It was an organization founded in 1956, is completely non-collecting, a very eccentric, idiosyncratic, and very unique space. And so I felt it's a very natural transition.
And Raphaela must have recruited you.
Yes, I did.
And what were his great qualities that you wanted for us?
Well, we did an international search, and Steve emerged as the unanonymous leader. And what I think we all really loved about his approach to curating is that he always considers this sort of the locale in which he's curating. So he's very sensitive to the audiences. He's very interested in a place's particular history and its idiosyncratic characters. And he's somebody who has has a very global reach and interest in art globally, but is also always very thoughtful and curious about the artists who call a particular city their home. He's also a curator who is very good working with different spaces, who thinks very carefully about spatial reality and also the history and sometimes even, sort of the political, social histories that make up an institution. And then we liked him as a person, which is always important,
Yeah, we already like him, and he's just come through the door. Just briefly, tell our audience the difference between a director and a curator.
So as the director, I'm responsible for basically the business of the Contemporary Arts Center. So I'm leading the institution in terms of the artistic vision, the financial reality of the place. I work closely with the board of trustees. I manage the staff, hopefully provide some good leadership for the staff. I'm more or less in charge of the entire institutional business, so to speak. And a curator is really more engaged with the artistic side of the institution. I mean, I will provide oversight, but the curator is the one who develops relationships with the artists and then puts the exhibitions together.
And Steven, you're the person who goes out into the world and finds the exhibitions that you want for CAC?
Exactly. I feel to be in a very fortunate position to sort of share with the world what interests me. But I think that a curator, the best curators, very much become surrogates or avatars for their surrounding community and audience. You have to follow work that inspires you, but you also have to think about what your larger audience and city and community will be interested in. So it's an interesting duality of being both very present in yourself and yet continually sitting outside of yourself when you're choosing artists and exhibitions.
What was your artistic, do you have degrees in art? What is your?
Yeah, I actually originally started out thinking I was going to be an artist, and so through much of high school and almost into university, I thought I'm going to be an artist. I loved it, sort of found my love for art in the studio, but then gradually started enjoying the relationships between artworks in visits to galleries and museums, and I started to become very captivated by how those relationships were forming, both spatially as well as conceptually. And so that started to divert my path towards art history, particularly contemporary art history, and then eventually into curatorial studies. And so I did my master's degree at the Center for Curatorial Studies, and then was very fortunate to sort of get right into the field, and I became a curator at the Plug-in Institute of Contemporary Art in Winnipeg when I was, I think, 24 years old. And so sort of trial by fire, very quickly learned the craft and have never looked back. It's something I love to do.
I'm always curious about what we could call traditional art and contemporary art. It's very difficult for a lot of people to identify with contemporary art. I'm sure you had that challenge. What do you focus on? First of all, you have to get them in to see what you have, and then do you have events or lectures to, I hate to use the word explain, because not all art doesn't need to be explained, it's whatever it says to you, but do you have ambitions in that regard? And
definitely. I think when we think about traditional art, you're often thinking about representational art, meaning it looks like something in the world. And so there's less of a learning curve. You can see subjects, you can see narrative. Where I think in contemporary art, you're often dealing with more abstract subject matter. But I think that there is a tremendous amount of freedom in contemporary art in that when we look at art history, the books have already been written. We already sort of, there's a meaning that has been assigned to many of the works, whereas with contemporary art, meaning is in process. This is all sort of, I think people expect to come in and have an answer, and yet there isn't one. It's very much a meaning in process, and it's being produced communally. And so when you say, I think that that's very, very important, multiple avenues for interpretation. So we think about wall texts, we think about audio guides, we think about video, we think about public program, film, panels. And I think it's less about explaining and more about gathering and expanding that conversation around art. I love art that is a catalyst for conversation and discourse and debate. And so that's what we're trying to cultivate at the CAC, because I think people respond to different languages, and you just have to pique their interest. You have to allow them to feel comfortable in offering their opinion, and then you can just go from there.
So if I'm the new guy to the CAC and I look at something and I say, I don't get it, and you happen to be standing there, do you then try to show me that I don't have to get it?
Exactly.
There's nothing to get? What would you say?
I think that the ultimate enemy of contemporary art is indifference. We want you to have a response. Love it or hate it, that's what we're trying to create with your visit, with your experience. And so if you don't immediately get it, but it still piques your curiosity, that's often the way I curate shows, is work I don't completely understand, and yet it continues to resonate and reverberate. There's something that I want to know more. And so that's really what I follow when I'm thinking about art and curating. And so I think that's tremendously exciting when you find that in an audience too, that you don't quite get it and yet you want to know more. And I think it's up to us to kind of fan that little flame, to allow it to grow and to expand. And so we're going to try to have gallery guides, artist talks, all the things that can start to feed you information like oxygen to allow that little spark to grow.
I always say about drama, if you don't care about the characters, you have to love them or hate them or be interested. If you don't care, it's a bad drama.
Exactly.
You have to strike some chord of interest in people, at least in drama, and it's probably true of contemporary art also. You're up on your 10th anniversary.
Yes, we are.
Tell us about that. Do you have some special programs?
Well, we're actually celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Rosenthal Center. So the institution itself is actually celebrating the 75th next year. So we've been around for quite some time. We were founded by 3 very adventurous, forward-looking women in 1936. And this year we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of this beautiful building on 6th Street that was created by Zaha Hadid. I think it was actually one of the first individual museum spaces that was designed and built by a single female architect. So yes, we have all kinds of things planned around it, from panel discussions that evolve around sort of intuiting what future cities might look like, to talks about architecture, to Saha coming back, celebrating the actual anniversary with us. And then Steven is working on an exhibition called Buildring, which is a combination of building and bouldering, that will sort of elucidate the whole idea of architecture and urban space in a very playful, imaginative way. So there's a lot planned for the next 2 years, celebrating these 2 anniversaries that are really big landmarks for us.
When I read the notes about what's happening for your anniversary, and I came to the word bouldering, and explain the word bouldering.
Well, I think Steven is much better doing that, but the exhibition itself is called Buildring, and Buildring is a sort of fashionable term by now that you can actually Google, and it's a combination of building and bouldering. And bouldering is something that comes from mountaineering, from mountain climbing, from
like, as in boulders, B-O-U-L-D.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it has that that background or that etymology attached to it.
And it started out with these urban acrobats that would start to scale buildings. They would turn the urban environment into one that would traditionally be scaled as a natural environment. And so it was this term that's built around the unsanctioned use of built concrete space. And so we're using it as a metaphor for a much larger exhibition concept.
Well, tell us about some of the other exhibits.
Well, we just opened the exhibition with JR, who is a French artist who started out on the streets of Paris, and by now executes very large-scale projects all around the world, where he takes very intimate portraits of people who live a little bit at the periphery of societies, and then pastes these large black and white posters on the facades of buildings, on rooftops of shanty towns, et cetera, et cetera. And we are actually hosting his first exhibition in the United States. And the show really tries to provide an insight or in-depth look into his artistic practice that really spans the globe. And so everybody who comes to the Contemporary Arts Center gets a pretty good idea of what this artist is all about. And not only do we have the exhibition inside of the museum walls, but JR also created a big mural, a big pasting on our facade. I think it's the first time that we ever did that, like pasted a very large mural on the Rosenthal Center. And then we also engaged in quite a few community projects where we did a project that he called Inside Out, which sort of was initiated by him receiving the TED Prize in 2011. And we did a pasting on Fountain Square, on Findlay Market, in Rabbit Hash, Kentucky. And what happened is that a photo truck, so literally a truck, I think an old ice cream truck, that had a big printer inside, traveled to all these different locales, and then people could come, have their picture taken, and then we pasted it right there on site on different buildings that we, had the right to paste on.
So. Yeah, you have the right. That's good.
Yes.
That's
yeah, we didn't do anything illegally.
Right. What about Pedro Alonso?
He's the curator of that exhibition.
He is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a freelance curator based out of Boston, and curated the large-scale Shepherd Ferry exhibition that we hosted a few years back. And so Pedro is very in tune, very intelligent about sort of that street art graduating to the institution. And so we felt very comfortable working with him, and he's done a wonderful job organizing the show.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. What about Joey Versoza?
Joey Versoza, Is This It?, was curated by our adjunct curator, Justine Ludwig. And it's an interesting, actually, dialogue that happens between JR and Joey. If we look at JR humanizing the urban environment, Joey is humanizing the popular culture landscape. And so he's really looking at and trying to translate very personal emotions through the lenses of movies, film, music, Kurt Cobain, all of these different icons that have become our language through popular culture. Joey is trying to tell very personal, very endearing stories through these lenses. And so what can often initially appear cryptic is actually very embedded with personal human emotions. And so we're very excited. He's based out of Northern Kentucky, so he's a local artist.
Graduate of the Art Academy,
Yeah,
you should add.
exactly.
So he's a local boy.
Very much so, yeah. And this is sort of his first solo exhibition at the CAC, and it's one that, we're very, very proud to host. I think people, every time I've revisited and walked through it, I gain something new out of the experience. So we're very excited to share that with you.
And where are his things that people could have seen before now?
He's shown sort of locally, so some of the local artist-run centers, U-Turn, Art Space, Publico, sort of the Brighton area, he's shown quite a bit. He just was in a recent show at Thunder Sky, at a group show. So he has had quite a strong presence in Cincinnati, in Chicago, a little bit in Baltimore. But this is sort of a larger platform to inhabit, and he does so very ably.
Diane Landry?
Diane Landry, By Every Wind That Blows, is a Canadian artist that I've had the pleasure of working with in the past.
So it was a really nice coincidence because I discovered Diane prior to Steven being hired, and I really thought it would be wonderful to do a project with her at the Contemporary Arts Center, and sort of committed to her that we would do that in the fall. And then Steven came on board and had prior knowledge of her as a person, but also was very familiar, deeply familiar with the work. So we decided to embark on it together. And I think it's going to be a really beautiful, poetic exhibition with mandalas created from empty plastic bottles that cast these beautiful moving shadows on the wall. It's, I think, going to be a very meditative, very thoughtful, beautiful exhibition.
But it's objects made from what we would say disposable items?
Very much so. And sort of Diane does everything that technology is not supposed to do. When we think about the machine, we always think about things doing more, faster, better, whereas she pushes in the opposite direction and creates these very meditative, reflective, almost ritualistic machines that just breathe in and out in a very anthropomorphic way, but that cause us to slow down and to actually think rather than always pushing forward and accelerating without the opportunity to really reflect. And so we're very excited. We're premiering one of her large-scale installations called Exhaustion, which is basically a large, almost looks like a chandelier, all woven out of plastic utensils, knives, forks, and spoons. Becomes almost like a wounded jellyfish moving in, up and down in the space and just touching a very thin plastic film. And so again, it's sort of an abstract spiritualism to her work. And she'll also be performing live at the opening. So she'll be suspended about 20 feet in the air in a canoe, paddling through plastic waves for 2 hours. So it's something to be seen, to be believed. Yeah.
And when is that?
It's in November. We open in November.
So you'll have an opening and she'll be up there doing her thing?
Yeah. And it's really beautiful because she animates these large plastic sheets of plastic. So it's just this beautiful play of undulating plastic that will be hovering in our lobby space. Yeah, we really look forward to that.
And what about Michael Sailstorfer? Is that how you
Michael
pronounce it?
Sailstorfer, yeah. It's an exhibition called Every Piece is a New Problem. And I was very excited to bring this artist. Raphaela is it's such a pleasure to work with her because she's very attuned, very sympathetic to artists, and we, I think, are philosophically aligned in that we really like the opportunity to showcase a European artist or an artist from around the world that hasn't had an American presence yet, that maybe has shown a little bit. And so Sailstorfer very much falls into that category. He's an emerging German artist, and I like to say that he's continually trying to reinvent the practices of sculpture and installation by trying to make them do everything that they're not supposed to do. So he's trying to dematerialize the physical form while giving physical form to light and space and sound. And so the cornerstone installation of this exhibition will be a piece called Forest, where he turns 4 trees upside down and then allows them to spin very slowly in the exhibition space with a whole mechanical armature.
It's like a ballet of trees.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Wow.
And they slowly shed their leaves and needles, and so they become these mandala-like drawings. So a very beautiful connection to the Diane Landry exhibition.
Is that the last one of the year?
That in concert with Buildering, the group exhibition, which will feature about 25 artists, will take us into fall of 2014, when then our anniversary program starts to roll out in full.
Yeah, and maybe if people don't know, the Contemporary Arts Center has no collection.
No,
It's just
not collecting.
You don't own any art?
No, we thrive on continuously changing programs. We have the finger on the pulse, and we are constantly embracing the new and everything that is sort of in a state of becoming. So, you know, it's really exciting, it's exhilarating, but we also never have the opportunity to, you know, fall back on a collection and pull from the history of art. And
right. Some of these things that require performance, does that happen only on the opening, or do they come back and do it?
Well, Barbara, we have an entire performance program. So we have, Steven is one of the curators, and then we have a curator for our performance and film series. And then we also have a very large education program. So we have continuously ongoing programs that are performances, films, family programs, adult programs. So there's a cornucopia of programs going on all the time. Sometimes we look at each other and we really wonder how we pull it all off. But I mean, I want to say there are at least 2 things every week that people can come and enjoy, because we really think of ourselves as an arts institution, arts with a plural. And as you know, contemporary art, you know, doesn't remain within the categories that we want to put it in. So it's not just drawing, sculpture, painting. No, they don't stay in the box. You know, they push the boundaries constantly and sort of make us rethink the categories that we easily impose on artistic creativity. So at the Contemporary Arts Center, we really embrace all kinds of forms of artistic expression all the time. And people have the opportunity to come to artistic programs, but then also learn and be engaged through, you know, more educational or public types of programs.
So it sounds like a person could come just about any time and see something different.
Almost, yes.
Almost,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
And
yeah.
is it free, the Contemporary Arts Center?
We actually have admission, and we are free Monday nights from 5 to 9.
Okay. And and other times it's
$7.50 for adults. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very doable.
Absolutely. Yes, that's less than a theater ticket.
Absolutely.
These days, yeah. Is there anything else that you would like the citizens, our viewers, to know about the CAC? I think everybody knows about the art museum,
right.
up, you know, in Eden Park, but people are less familiar with the CAC because it's a little different than what most people have knowledge of or have seen before. So do you have a lot of school groups who come?
Yes, we have a lot of school groups that come through. You know, thousands of students that we tour through the exhibitions, and we do also quite a bit of teacher workshops. So we work closely with the teachers to give them some ideas of how to incorporate, you know, more contemporary strategies into their classroom, and it's wildly embraced and with open arms.
I think Cincinnati should be very proud, because Raphaela mentioned we're completely non-collecting, but we're actually the largest non-collecting institution in the United States in terms of square footage. And so we have an ample amount of space to really realize ideas and to stay timely and relevant. And our performances take place both inside our black box theater, but also out into the community. I think JR has been a great metaphor for us this season, because we want to make the CAC a more porous place where things happen both inside the building, but that the CAC is also a presence throughout the city. And for instance, an exhibition like Bildering will have performances that are very much a duet with the space. There's one artist that has people perform, and then he records all of those physical interactions and then turns it into a musical score, versus another group of artists that do a performance called Bodies in Urban Space, where they dress in very bright colors, jumpsuits, and they move through the city and insert themselves into various niches to kind of create a painting with human bodies all throughout the city. And I think that that's a very fitting metaphor for what we want to do at the CEC.
So
we're an iconic building and organization, but we're also circulating through every corner of the city.
And then, you know, maybe to close, I want to say that, you know, contemporary art is really about life. It's the life that we all participate in right now. And this is why sometimes it's uncomfortable, because, you know, life is in a constant state of flux, and there are as people, we are constantly encountering questions. We never have an answer to, what we are living through or breathing through at this very moment. And I think this is why contemporary art is powerful and at times a little bit confounding, because it raises all these questions, or at least puts them right in front of us, mirrors all of the, beautiful but also awkward, challenging things that are, present in the world. And it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to take a more in-depth look at who we are and, what the 21st century is all about. And we want to think that we at the Contemporary Arts Center provide a window for people into the world, into their own lives through the lens of artists. And so it's a special place.
Well, you're very special, and you've made it what it is. We're very proud of having the CAC at the side and having you.
Thank you.
And now Steven, and we look forward to great things from you.
Thank you.
And you have exciting things, and I hope people will take advantage of it.
Yeah, we do too.
And learn something and appreciate what we have to offer. So
thanks, Barbara. Thanks for having us.
you.
Well,
it's always
thank
such
you
a
for
pleasure.
coming. It's
Yeah,
great,
thank you.
really great. For more
Thank you.
information about the Contemporary Arts Center, please visit their website at www.contemporaryartscenter.org. And you may also call them at 513-345-8400. And to watch all of our showcase episodes again on demand, you may do so at our website at cetconnect.org/showcase. Thank you for watching. I'm Barbara Kellar, and have a great night.